Today's movie is an animated film, which got me thinking, what horror movie would you like to see redone or, even done for the first time as an anime or a stop motion animation?
Okay, so I'm going to really go wild here. I'll say probably Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
I knew
The
it.
Dream Child.
I knew it.
Imagine what they could do with animation. And
It
that
would look amazing.
Yeah.
But I called that. Like, the moment I
yeah.
heard that question, I was like, oh, I know what John's
That's a
going with.
gimme. That's a gimme because you could do so much more cool stuff in the dream side of things, and the wizard kid could have some cool wizard powers besides stupid lightning. So,
the way Freddy moves and stuff like that would be
Yeah.
really cool to like see that like kind of fast, like rushed, frames per second anime style. But
yeah,
that's
that'd
a
be
good
dope.
choice. I like it. And filling in for Mark today, ladies and gentlemen, because he's out on vacation. Mark, we hope you're having a great time out there.
I don't. I hope it's miserable.
Wow, that's in line with horror.
Yeah.
We hope it's just a terrible like survival experience.
He is on a train, so it could be a whole like Train to Busan type thing.
Oh, you never know.
Yeah.
Could be that, or maybe some stranger's been stalking him through
Yeah.
a few cities now, and he doesn't know about
No
it.
idea.
He'll know when he
About
gets
to find
home.
out. Ooh.
Somehow it's also Snowpiercer. There's just a lot of weird train shit going on.
And that voice, ladies and gentlemen, is a returning guest after a very long time. Matt, welcome back to the podcast. What would be your anime horror movie?
Thank you. Glad to be back. And I think this is one that's also going to be kind of generic, but I'm surprised it hasn't been done yet. And I think the Alien series would be awesome as anime. I think there's so much to work with. When I was a kid, we read those Dark Horse comics of Alien, and there's like so much of that world of aliens infecting different species across different planets and different things, and I think there's just a ton to work with, and the action would look really cool in an anime style.
Yeah, I would love to see it like in a Matrix Revelations or a Batman Gotham Knight style, or like those small little animated vignettes from different studios. That could be really cool.
I think you mean
Yeah.
Animatrix.
Yes, you do.
Yes, did I say
Revelations.
Yes.
That's the new
Yeah.
one. Okay, yeah, my bad. Animatrix.
Yeah, Animatrix, Peter Chung, all these different animators trying different things, like something like that with Alien. Yeah, I'd be on board for that.
Studio IG
Yeah.
getting involved in there. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
That'd be great. So mine is going to throw everyone for a loop because I absolutely hate this movie. But I think if it was done in a true like anime style, kind of balls to the wall, I would enjoy it a lot more. Jason X. I do not like that movie at all, but I think that would be a really cool animated movie. You could do stop motion, make it really creepy looking, or you could even go with like full, like Japanese anime style and have some like really intense chase scenes through these small corridors, moving at a really fast, frame rate and stuff. I mean, that would look really solid.
What about really high-end CGI film, like Love and Robots kind of level?
I would say Love and Robots. Man, Love and Robots is amazing. If you're not watching that, it's on Netflix.
Love, Death, and Robots.
Love, Death, Robots.
Yes.
That's what it is. That's right. That's awesome. They're on season 3 now, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I feel that CGI has come so far, and with the design and the characters of Jason X, you're not going to get anything that's going to be that far from just realism. I mean, the CGI would look, kind of stylized, of course, but it's almost like filming it with film. So I would like to see something a little more like, like off the beaten path artistic with it. I feel like the stop motion animation, kind of jankiness that happens would look really solid, even with like a really smooth version of it, like a Studios. Yeah, there's that little bit of like uneasy, otherworldly kind of movement that they have. I think that might make Jason like that much creepier, especially when you're on such like a pristine, solid, like, spaceship, set design. Mm-hmm. But I would like to see that. I think that might be a good way to revitalize that movie and make me actually give a shit about it.
I stopped listening after you said you didn't like Jason 10.
I know you did.
The best of all the Jason films. So
Jason X had Gilbert Gottfried in it. None of the others can say that.
yeah, see? So
I know. That's the struggle I deal with constantly, folks.
Yeah.
it was in space, dude.
Yeah.
Space.
I know. Have you watched Amityville in Space yet?
No, is it out yet?
I don't know, but if it's not, we need to find out when that's coming out, because
Yeah.
you and I are doing a quickie soon.
I am. Yeah, absolutely. You put anything in space, I'm going to watch it. So
What's up, you creatures from cyberspace? Welcome back to another episode of the GraveTalk podcast. I am joined by John and Matt today. As we mentioned earlier, Mark is out on vacation, but he will be back soon with us, I believe, for our next film, which, let's just go ahead and spoil that right away, is going to be 2022's Black Phone from Scott Derrickson, I believe, with Ethan Hawke. Looks pretty interesting. Well, welcome back. We've got a very interesting episode today. It's an animated film that came out of kind of nowhere, if you were not familiar with it, called Mad God. Shudder bought the rights to this one, and I saw it, and I was like, yo, this is happening. And we'll get into kind of the backstory of that. But before we jump into all of that, let's go ahead and find out, what have you guys been up to?
Well, let's see. I am up to Fast and the Furious 8, The Fate of the Furious. So stay tuned. Probably next time we'll have the official
of the sequels.
Yes. Okay. We'll have the official.
Just to keep it in line with horror.
GraveTalk Fast and Furious. I mean, the driving is terrifying. Could you imagine?
I'd rather not.
Have Hobbs and Shaw and Fast 9, the one where they go to space. So
they're not at 10 yet?
No, 10 is filming, but they lost their director, and they get a new director, and it's a whole
Did he die, or did
No,
they
he
just replace
quit.
him? Oh.
He quit because Vin Diesel is a diva. So
No.
Yeah.
Breaking news. You heard it here first on the Grave Talk podcast.
Yeah, so that's a thing. And I watched 976 Evil.
That's a classic.
Yep.
Yeah, it was all right.
Now that is supposed to be a unofficial kind of spiritual sequel to the evil character from Fright Night.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I could see that.
It's kind of if that character, his origin story almost is kind of what that's supposed to kind of be.
I dig it. It was, not the best movie I've ever seen.
It's moments, but yeah.
It was if you like 80s horror, you'll like this one.
I still remember when that was the scariest video box in the video rental store.
Yep.
As a
Yeah.
kid, I would pick it up and look at it and just know that it would give me nightmares and just put it back. But every time I went, I was like, oh, I got to stop by and just visit that really
That
scary box.
yeah.
We need to really get Mark on top of his video side
Yeah.
project where he talks about movies that he picked up just based off the covers.
Oh, nice.
And he's going to talk about those because, man, you're right. The video box art for some of these movies in the 80s scared the shit out of me. House is a good example of that. House had the scariest cover, and then you watch it and you're like, wait a minute, hold up.
Yeah.
I've been hoodwinked. It's like I think I may have mentioned this on the podcast, like hearing Kiss for the first time. You see Kiss and you're like, wow, these guys must fucking sound like the devil himself, and it's all like, Suzanne would love you. You're just like, oh God, why?
Yeah, they did a disco song, and but yeah. Meanwhile, they're on stage spitting up blood, and just
It's a real contradiction.
They're a band of multitudes, okay? So I will say it was nice to see Robert Picardo not play the Doctor in Star Trek Voyager. I was like, oh shit, surprise Doctor. So he does a good job there in that movie. And that's about it about 976 Evil. Apparently there's a sequel. Have any of y'all seen that?
Wait, to 976 Evil?
Yeah.
No.
976 Evil 2. The box cover, notably,
It should have been
less
called
scary.
976 Evil Extension 2. How the fuck did you miss that
It's
opportunity?
called
Different phone number
Nope,
or
it's just
something.
976 Evil 2. This time, Satan returns the call.
Okay, that's a pretty good that's a
And
tagline.
it's really working on a sex factor instead of a scary factor for the box cover. Yeah.
It is.
That wouldn't have stopped me when I was a kid.
no.
Maybe as a teenager though.
Yeah. Also, I didn't know. So here's something for our younger listeners. 976 is what the premium phone number was before 1-900. I just thought that was random, but apparently, if you knew if you were alive in the early 80s, 976 is pre 1-900. And our youngest audience members are like, what the fuck are they talking about? What's 1-900?
Could you patch me into the party line, Dixie?
Yeah.
Right away, sir.
You used to call to hear pre-recorded bullshit for a lot of money.
Once again, foolish friends, Freddy Krueger is on your phone. Dial this number now. I've got some tales to tell. Freddy's favorite bedtime stories. Bedtime stories. So dial this number now if you dare and prepare for a scare. Freddy Krueger has a special message just for you. Tell him Freddy sent you.
Okay, what have I been up to?
Yeah, what have you been up to?
I've got a new job where I'm using 3D printing to create bronze statues and monuments.
Or
and
Bruns, for those who don't
bronze,
know.
yes. If if you're from the north, I believe it's pronounced Bruns. But it's we use 3D printing and 3D sculpting techniques, and we make bronze sculptures and stuff. But probably the biggest event in my life right now is I beat Elden Ring on Thursday.
Oh.
Whoa!
Yeah, major life changer for me. I'd been pretty tied up with that whole gaming event. I don't even know how to describe it.
I did that a couple weeks ago, and My first Souls game.
Really?
Yes, my first Souls game, and I beat Elden Ring. I actually got 3 of the endings.
It was it was a good game. It was a hell of an ordeal, and I mean, I'm kind of joking saying it was a big event in my life, but like I can do other things now. I'm free again.
Oh, that's exactly how I felt. I walked into work and I told Mark, I was like, I've done it. I don't have to do it ever again.
Yeah.
I'm back to being a human. That game is very weird in the fact that it has perfected the dopamine drip. That game opens up more map, opens up characters, opens up like enemies, like design, where you're like, okay, I'm starting to get annoyed with wait, what the hell is this? And then you're just back in.
Yep.
Like, this is the first time a game has drugged me along for that many hours, and I've been like, let's go.
Yeah, and it was Thursday night was the night that the film we're about to talk about came out, and I was supposed to watch it that night, but I realized if I don't get Elden Ring out of the way, I'm going to be so unprepared when I come to record with you guys. So, that film had to wait till Friday night.
Oh, I've been through 3 marriages just because of Elden Ring. That's just the way things is. That's just the way things is. Okay, that's not even proper English.
Just the way it is. Yeah. Some things will never change.
What else you been up to? Anything exciting?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually a fair answer because Elden Ring pretty much is just it for most people. No, that was really cool. And there's actually a lot of like really disturbing kind of horror-y things in that game.
Yes.
That design team is kind of top notch. But I am glad I'm done with that. So
I've been playing WWE 2K22. Now there's a fun
really?
game. Oh hell yeah, that game is so fun.
does it have Coco Beware?
No.
Then I'm not
does
interested.
But it's actually a huge return to form because WWE 2K20 was trash. So.
Well,
I really enjoyed the 2K20 videos of all the glitches and stuff.
Yeah. That part was fun.
That was pretty fun.
everyone loves a good shit show.
Yeah.
Speaking of shit shows, this movie was not, but it had a lot of shit in it.
It did. Like real, literal shit, piles and piles of it. It was surprising.
It basically had some Kuso vibes going on a little bit there. But no, today we were talking about Mad God, which came out in 2022. One could argue was a long-time labor of love, as this movie took almost 30 years to complete. I don't even know if it was meant to be a movie necessarily, but yeah, it is a stop-motion animation film from Phil Tippett. You probably know Phil Tippett from special effects on Star Wars, Jurassic Park, RoboCop. He did the Ed 209 and all that stuff like that. Big practical stop-motion effects artist. And he started a project back in the late 80s called Mad God. And then I believe the story is that when he was working on Jurassic Park, they saw what CGI could do. And he became incredibly disillusioned and kind of like, well, that's it. This is the future. We're done. Like, this is all finished. And he kind of was giving up on it. And some people were like, no, don't give up on this. Keep going. And it was a side project that he was doing. And they was like, no, just keep going. And so in his spare time on the weekends in between projects, he'd work on this and stuff like that. And then eventually in the early 2000s, I want to say maybe like 2008, 9 or something like that, they did a Kickstarter and to complete Mad God. And he had put out like a few 10-minute little snippets of what they had done up until that point. But he did a Kickstarter, got funding, and Mad God was going to be completed. And so cut to 2022, and here we are. 85 minutes of stop-motion animation insanity. It was gorgeous. It was fantastic. Very artsy, but very convoluted plot, which I think we need to kind of touch on at this point, because for our listeners out there, this is going to be a hard one for us to describe in our standard GraveTalk format where we kind of like, and then Judy goes inside and does this. No, this is going to be like, some of this shit happens. It's going to be kind of free-for-all potpourri at this point. So bear with us. But if you are interested in animation, this has some very beautiful, like gory horror, visuals. I would definitely recommend checking it out. I would like to at this point cut and say, would you guys recommend this? Let's just get it out of the way.
Absolutely.
Yes, with like an asterisk. Because I feel like this movie is wildly overrated, but it is. It is a good. It's very pretty. Well, pretty is not the right word. It's a very well done, disgusting, gory set of visuals that, though, is just boring.
I went into this as a little quick backstory. I had heard about this project for quite a few years. Never really heard much about it after. I knew there was a Kickstarter starting, and kind of fell off the radar at that point. Just stopped thinking about it. Didn't see much from it. And I forgot to back the Kickstarter, so I'm a piece of shit. So let's just get that out of the way.
Way to go, dude.
I know. Real son of a bitch.
Would have came out 5 years ago if there's one more backer.
My $25 could have changed everything. And we were trying to decide what movie to do this week when Mark was out, and I saw Mad God pop up in a Shudder ad. Shout out to Shudder, as always, delivering the goods. And I was like, yo, it's here. We've got to do this. Like, it's stop motion animation, one of my favorite art styles, you know. But to be fair, I knew nothing about the plot other than like the little snippets of the stuff that he had shown like 10, 15 years ago. So yeah, once I started watching it, I quickly was like, oh, there's going to be some opinions from the crew on this one.
You know what it reminds me of? Like those kind of movies that play in a loop at like a modern art museum that they just like project against a wall that are like, okay, this is interesting. It's making my eyeballs happy. I don't really know what the hell's happening, but all right. That's the vibe I personally got from this movie. I was like, I don't think I'm smart enough for this movie.
I don't think it's a matter of intelligence, but yeah, I was kind of just sitting there going, you know, oh, I'm amazed. Like this is, oh, I hear all of this. I mean, I feel like Phil Tippett was really talking to us. Like he had a lot to say from Phil. Like
there's stuff there, but it's like, it's almost like someone dumped a puzzle out and walked away and was like, enjoy. And you're like, oh, I got to do all this? Okay. Like, I felt like it was my responsibility to do the work. But it's there. There's enough threads to be like, okay, I see what you're doing here.
I would say you're not wrong about that at all. It's definitely one of those works of art that's kind of like, okay, I put down the first half. Now you complete it with what you think is happening. What, you know, David Lynch does the same thing with a lot of his kind of work. You know, where some of his weirder films, a lot of people don't like them because it's like the plot didn't make sense, you know? And it's like, well, you have to make sense of it by watching it 4 or 5 times. And, you know, it's hard to get people
I'm very torn on that concept. I feel like I'm here for you to do the work. You had a job to do, which was to give me a narrative or give me something to, you know, like, so whenever it's like, it's up to you, I'm kind of like, no. I paid you money. It's up to you, my friend. But this one, I also wonder if it suffered from being a project that lasted so long. I don't know if you've ever worked on something where you've come back to it every couple years and you're just like, oh, what if I did this different on it? And sometimes you kind of restart or it changes what it was originally supposed to be. I wonder how much of that Mad God suffered from just, you know, like, oh, what if we went with this thing? Or, you know, like, hey, I did this cool thing. Let's see if we can shoehorn that into the story this time.
Absolutely. As a sculptor making bronze sculptures, you know, the process on those things is pretty slow. It's not like painting where you can get a series done, you know, over a summer or something like that. And so, yeah, I have had that happen where 4 or 5 sculptures into a series, I'm just like, I'm so bored with this and I think it kind of sucks and I think it was a bad idea to start with. And then it just ends. And, you know, because you want to do about 10 or 12 to get a good series, you know, for galleries and stuff. And that is so hard to do when it's 3 months for each one, you know, because you're a different person by the time you get halfway through it, you know.
Well, shit, with the pandemic, man, life changed in a couple months.
Exactly.
Life will never be the same. I don't know why I turned into Donald Pleasance there for a moment, but we'll just keep going.
Yeah, that's what he would say, though. So,
I think so, too. Let's tap into our inner Donald Pleasance every now and then.
And it was also, I thought he had dropped by. I was like, oh, shit, is Donald here?
Well, you know, I got the shaved head.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like...
Donnie is what his friends call him, but...
You got some real DP energy. Wait, hold on. That sounded bad.
DP energy?
Got that DP energy over here.
I'm ready to see that meme on the GraveTalk, just a picture of Donald Pleasance with DP energy. Like,
yeah.
Big DP energy.
He brings it every time.
Okay, yeah, we should definitely put that on the Instagram. At this point, then, because I think we're all going to have a lot to say about the animation and some of the visuals and some of the unique techniques they use to, you know, kind of like, you know, complete some of these scenes. But let's see let's jump into the plot. See if we can make a little heads or tails of that for the audience before we jump into this, because I feel, you know, again, we had to do a lot of work, but I feel like you may have come to a different conclusion than I did. And John,
I came to no conclusion.
I can't even imagine where you're fucking.
I got nothing. I was just like, okay, well, there was 3 unconnected stories.
You know what, Garrett? I think today we need to make a goal that by the end of this show, John has a conclusion.
Yeah, I have a conclusion that this movie is boring.
A clue. Like by the end of the day, John should at least have a clue what's going on.
You're going to have a story to tell about Mad God and what it's done in your life.
That's a lift. I've never had a clue my whole life, so clueless.
So let's talk about. We kind of recommended this. Well, John sort of recommended this, but let's talk about the Rotten Tomatoes score, because I feel like this has got to be very polarizing amongst the audience and the critics. So who here's got the Rotten Tomatoes score? Because I didn't, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Lucky for you, I do, because Mark reminded us.
Okay.
So 89% with the critics, 62% with the audience. But there's less than 50 audience ratings, and there's only like 4 actual written reviews. So it's a pretty small sample size.
I think that the critics rating, that sounds what you'd expect. That sounds like par for the course. I think the audience rating, though yes, there's not that many. I would say that most folks, when there's just a limited pool like that, they get out there early to get the bad reviews out. The people who have like some shit to talk, it's like Yelp, don't really judge a restaurant by its Yelp reviews because it's just going to be mostly people who have had bad experiences, so I think that given that bias, I think that 62% is standing pretty tall, I'd be proud of that.
All right.
Phil Tippett.
For this kind of thing, yes, I would, if it was me personally, I would love anything over a 40%, just because it is so wild. It's so bizarre. I mean, this is not going to be for everyone, and you're going to attract the animation nerds out the gate. That's going to happen.
Yes.
But you're also going to it's on Shudder, so you're going to get some horror people also. But I feel like it's a very broad spectrum. It's a lot of people, with different like tastes in these things. And so I would expect that score to be lower. So if he's kicking it around to 60% or so, that's not bad for an audience score, in my opinion.
I believe it's certified fresh.
Oh,
So-
what makes it fresh? Over 50?
I think it's over 60.
Oh, okay.
Or, it could be over whatever we want it to be because I don't know.
We own Rotten Tomatoes now.
Yeah, I think as much as the internet people love to just rush out and label something pretentious bullshit and go, look, I caught him. He's being pretentious. This is crap. Don't watch it. That's such a good opportunity to do that with this film. So 62% is an A+ in my book.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. But this was directed and written by Phil Tippett. There's a lot of different people who helped as animators and, people like that. The actors in this film, there are very few live actors. And when they are on screen, some of them are in puppet suits to make it look even more unworldly or otherworldly. And but we've got Alex Cox as the last man. We've got Nikita Roman as the nurse/witch. Satish Ratakonda, I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, as the surgeon, and Harper Taylor. John, would you say this one's a little bit long?
No, this was cool. It was all right. Mostly because it's just fun to look at, so I wasn't like, oh, hurry up and be over. It's like, oh, we're done now. All right.
Yeah, it had a good pace to it for sure.
It did pace well. I thought they did a really good job of like every time something started getting a little bit just too like indulgent, they would cut to something else. There was only one scene in this movie that I can basically remember going like, you could have cut away at any point and I would have been happy here.
Yes, I know the scene, I think.
Oh yeah? Well, let's just spoil it. What are you talking about?
I think it was that surgery scene, the dissecting of the assassin or the soldier or whatever. I think that
the part where he's looking at the clock and the seconds have like multiple seconds between. I was like, yeah, you've made your point. Okay, you've made your point. We're now at the 45 seconds. Let's go.
Nope, we've got more of this guy's guts to pull out. We're going to keep doing it.
Do you like treasures and trinkets? We got plenty of those. Plot-wise, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's try to do it the GraveTalk podcast way, and at any point it just becomes unmanageable, then we will just get into it as fast as possible.
The film opens with no credits or splash scene or anything like that. Splash page or what am I? You know what I'm talking about?
Title screen.
Title screen. Yeah. What? Splash page.
Splash page.
Yeah. I think that's from video games. You've got a spiral temple, sort of like a ziggurat, maybe like a Tower of Babel kind of thing.
I was thinking Tower of Babel as well.
Yeah, me too.
And it seems there's swirling black clouds above it, and then
which is a really cool effect because it's oil. It's oil that's like basically being poured on a flat surface, so it looks like clouds are like oiling down on top of this tower.
That's amazing. There were so many effects like that in the film that you knew it was like some secret technique that probably was invented in the 60s or 70s. We're looking at this tower as what looks like an army is at the foot of the tower, and then spiraling up the tower on the outside are people having kind of like a tug of war over huge building block looking things. And at the very top of the tower is a black, weird cloaked figure that kind of resembles this, what I called the Plague Witch from later in the film. And then all at once, that figure is struck by lightning, and the black clouds encompass everything, and we get a wonderful threat from the Christian God on the screen.
We get scripture, if you will.
Yeah. And, we'll just read a little bit of it, because it's
and this is like, this
stuff,
is your standard text scroll up the screen on what looks to be like, aged parchment,
Yes.
written in this like almost I don't want to say, biblical writing style, but almost, let's say like demonic deity kind of style. It has some weight to it.
It's like that old Gothic font on your computer.
Yeah, scrawled onto some awful old paper and lost in some, basement of the Vatican or something. And
Too bad I didn't use papyrus, the best font to let people know. If you're going to put something on parchment, Phil...
It would have looked more authentic with papyrus.
Look, if you want to fuck with your subjects, use wingdings.
Phil, get at me for any more font advice.
Yeah.
Comic Sans, Papyrus, Helvetica. I know them all, so...
A real god would have used wingdings. So basically, it's God saying, this is how he's going to treat you if you worship an idol instead of him. I, for my part, will discipline you sevenfold for your sins. You shall eat the flesh of your sons and the flesh of your daughters. I'll destroy your cult places, I like this, and cut down your incense stands. Oh, man, my incense stand. Come on, man.
My Nag Champa,
Not
bro.
cool,
No.
God.
You're totally harshing the office mellow.
Dude.
You know how hard it is to get sandalwood in the apocalypse? It's impossible.
It was organic sandalwood. I'll spurn you. I'll lay your cities in ruin and make your sanctuaries desolate. I will not savor your pleasing odors. Again, with the incense, he's not having it.
I wrote that one down. She was like, you're not going to savor my odors, dude? Damn.
And then it just keeps going. I'll unsheath the sword against you. Your land shall become desolation. Your cities a ruin. I mean, it's just classic God being as loving as can be. And just letting everybody know that, like, you better not mess around because he's watching and will mess you up.
One could argue it's the deity version of fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
So,
the biblical origins.
Yeah,
That's a good way of looking at it.
This really, I felt, was a great setup to this film because with that in mind, a lot of these scenes I could kind of like use that as a jump off point of like, okay, we've got something here that happened from a deity level, but man, I'm interested to find out if you guys felt that carried out all the way through. There were certain parts that I think did, but I think they lost the thread about the second descent part. But
yeah, I felt like it then became more about like war or something and like more of an anti-war type situation. And then it looped back around though into like a weird, like the Ghostbuster dog showed up and just some
those
weird
giant bulls.
Yeah, it's a weird. Like, what's
Well, I
happening?
saw an old interview with Tippett in Vice magazine, Vice Video, whatever, where he was talking about how this was kind of like a reflection of his own misanthropic tendencies. Like he wanted to kind of comment on the privilege of being an American and what we do to the world. And so there is a bit of I think the war stuff specifically is a bit of like, screw you, America, behave better, but I think that in trying that, I think it definitely got away from him. And what I see is something way more autobiographical, but I'll get to that later.
That's interesting because now knowing that the scene where the second descent where he kind of goes to that military war zone area does have that feel of like war is a function and damn the consequences and the byproduct of. So that makes sense for that section. But then you try to combine that with the other things that happen in the other 4 to 5 sections. You're like, I'm not seeing the connection there, bro. Like, again, I feel like this is like, I don't know if you guys said vignettes earlier. I think one of you did. I feel like this is, yo, I got all these tank things. You want to make it like a cool tank scene? That sounds rad. Okay, let's figure out how we can put that in here. Like, as an artist, there's been times it's like, I can make that. I can shoehorn that in. I can make that work. I wonder how many of those scenes were like that just because of how the project proceeded over 30 years. Because I know there's some of the information says that the scene where the piles of dead bodies in that war scene is melted green army men on wire. And it took 6 people almost 3 years just to complete those.
Wow.
And so you think about that, and of course, it's not like constantly working. It's probably like a weekend or a Saturday here and there. But you think about that, and you're like, yeah, I could see changing my mind on stuff or getting lost of wait, what are we doing on this one? But I don't know. It's just so engaging though that I get to these points where I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not sure, and then I realize I don't care. I just enjoyed what I watched.
Yeah. Imagine being 2.5 years into melting army men and then feels like, you know what, actually, never mind. How pissed would you be?
Yeah, you've got enough army man piles.
We're going to put it on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
That's another thing about these kind of movies. I feel like very little ever gets put on the cutting room floor just because of the effort and the work it takes to do any scene in stop motion.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very well planned out of this is what we're doing and this is going to make it in.
I wonder about that. That's a good point. It would be really hard, I think, to throw any of that away. But then I also think of the way I've felt about art that I've made, a decade ago, and it's like, oh yeah, it's not anywhere near as important as it felt to me at the time. So, yeah, you can have it for a Christmas present or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care.
But I think it's different. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not an artist, so y'all could tell me. But it's like it's your own work versus like someone else did all this work, and then you're like, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cut that shit out of my movie. My bad, y'all.
I think it depends on the type of project. Because if you're making a movie, if Phil Tippett's making Mad God and someone basically spent like half a year doing like, look, I made these little foam dolphins, and you're like, cool, we've gone this direction and we're not putting those in my movie anymore. Like, I feel like when you have someone at the helm, you run that risk of your work being like kind of snipped away based off how they're feeling, Oh
yeah.
I hope the artists you work with, tend to recognize the effort and stuff you work with and would stop you and be like, hey, Tom, chill with the dolphins, man. We're not using those anymore. It's like, oh my God, thank goodness. One thing I have listed here is one of my notes is Shudder really needs special features.
Yeah.
Like DVDs. Like with iTunes, when you buy a movie, you can get some special features on those, like, interviews, behind the scenes, commentary. I would fucking give a finger to have a commentary from like 4 different people on this movie. Phil Tippett, a few of the animators, maybe the actors who did some of the scenes, like the go motion stuff that they were doing. Like, I would love to hear from all these people. And I think it is going to get a release at some point. So here's fingers crossed, hoping we get that.
Yeah. And one of my notes was, I bet the making of this movie would make a better movie than the movie I'm watching. So I was like, I want to see the making of documentary. I'll probably be more interested in that.
I'd be interested. I thought Shudder used to have like their own interview shows, things like that. And I don't know if they've lost some of the budget recently, but it seems like they don't really have a lot of original content like that anymore. But if it comes back, that would be a good place to start. Absolutely. All right.
Let's jump back in this plot real quick, because I think we totally got sidetracked. After threats from God, it's hard to keep on track,
What are you doing now?
I'm averting my eyes, O Lord.
Well, don't. It's like those miserable psalms. They're so depressing. Now knock it off.
Yes, Lord.
Right.
So now, with the whole audience thoroughly threatened with a threat that only a creator could give, we cut to a dark sky where a pod is being lowered from the clouds on this thin line. You see kind of like a war zone where turrets begin to aim at it, and you're thinking, okay, so that's the world we're going into.
Impending like prison, it looks like, with these like, turret guns on top of it.
But all that is the top layer of the cake, of the parfait of crazy Mad God world.
It's not even the icing; it's like the little like sprinkles.
Yeah, it's just something. I guess they've built up their awful civilization way up into the sky, because as it descends past all the turrets and the guns raining flak, as Iron Maiden would put it, we get to this like kind of peaceful area where it's just pipes draining out all the waste from this war sky city, and
like humanity's waste.
Yes, but then after that, we get to the third layer down, which is this strange kind of like spiral fossil. But it's huge. I'm thinking maybe
what are those called?
represents
The big
Nautilus
shell. Yeah, it's like but it's like massive. And it's got these weird little glowy effects on it.
And so I'm thinking that might represent the like the building block that this this top civilization is built on. Because below that, we get to sort of more like a natural earth ground. It's a swamp. There's some trees and bugs and crickets and whatnot. And then we descend past that to this underground thing of all these layers of dinosaur fossils.
And these are massive. These are think like huge dragons, not just dinosaur size. Some of these are like behemoth creature fossils. I may have paused it multiple times. I'm like, ooh, someone made model dinosaur bones. I'm in. This was really cool, because I was like, oh, okay, we're getting further and further down into like the history of the planet. But then it throws me for a loop.
Yes, because the next layer underneath the dinosaurs is when I had my first pause the screen moment, because we have a layer of, it's kind of like an empty cavern with some gems and just a ton of statues. It was when I noticed that one of these statues was Ray Harryhausen's Cyclops that I paused the screen and I went, wait a minute. And I kind of started looking around, and I didn't notice anything else that I recognized from other films. What about you guys? Did you?
There's an Ed 209 in there. No, wait, is that later? There's an Ed 209 somewhere in the movie. They look like terracotta warriors.
Yeah,
they're that simplistic, and they're all kind of white and dusty looking. But it's just this massive room of just, I'm like a sarcophagus almost of it.
So that to me was my first clue that maybe Phil Tippett himself is the Mad God. Because when I think about the layer of dinosaurs, Jurassic Park, one of his most important films he's ever worked on. Then he gets this next layer, and it's like Ray Harryhausen, a huge inspiration of his, and all the statuary, all that could have been used for stop motion, that kind of physical or practical effects stuff, all that stuff. It's like there's in these layers, it's all represented there. I think one of the things about this film is there's a lot of stop motion. I think when a lot of people think of stop motion, they think of what I call like soft clay stop motion. Frog and Toad, The Adventures of Mark Twain, stuff where
Gumby like that.
Yes, where their mouths are animated by claymation, and it's whereas Phil Tippett's never making stop motion films to look like a stylized clay cartoon or anything. And his career has always been stop motion stuff put into films with real actors, trying to trick the audience into thinking it's actually there.
Yeah.
And this film is the same.
Practical tricks to, to get the eye to think like, hey, it's just part of it.
So this film is the same way. And you brought up earlier about when Jurassic Park came out and he saw what's, and stop motion had a lot to do with Jurassic Park, but they used the stop motion dinosaurs that the traditional stop motion animators, because they'd had so much film experience that they were required to animate these dinosaurs because these computer guys, they could make realistic looking dinosaurs, but they couldn't make films. They didn't understand.
They know how the animation worked.
Right. They had no experience.
You could make something look good, but they didn't know how to make it move the right way. And
how to make it move the right way, how to make it lit for a scene, how to understand all that stuff that these guys could do.
And that's what Winston, when he did the giant dinosaur, the T-Rex head and stuff, he understood that stuff.
Yeah.
But, you're using,
animatronics.
Yes, animatronics and things like that. So, no, I also very much got the same. This opening scene was Phil Tippett working through the fact that film has changed. Like his dedication, his life's purpose had changed, because when he got to the what I'll call the Harryhausen cavern, that is it. That's a wonder to him. That is a changing moment. And now it's a tomb. And you go one level up, you basically start, you get to the dinosaurs, and it's like that's his moment where he was like, things are never going to be the same.
Yeah.
This is a clear delineation of how like life goes in a different way. And then you've got, like the sludge, and then above that you've got explosions, and like all this, just like it's just like the turrets are shooting and exploding. It's like bam, bam, bam. It's like, which, you think a lot of modern CGI, explosions, action films, just a lot of like fill the screen with pizzazz.
Yeah.
Very little like, art to it. It's just a lot of like bang, bang, bang. And I thought, this was a great moment of like, because right below that is the sludge. So I saw him viewing modern film effects as just being kind of garbage that wastes and just kind of like shits on everything that came before it. And maybe not so intense terms, but that's the kind of the way I also saw that. So I'm glad you kind of picked up on that too.
No, I think that's totally fair. I mean, and you got to think it too, the time that he was making this, when he made Jurassic Park, as he realized what CGI was going to do, there were a lot of films using CGI at the time that were just terrible. One of the most egregious offenders to me was a film called Species with Natasha Henstridge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember...
Everyone remembers that movie just because she's like half naked.
She's naked a lot, and that's great. But she also has this other form where she turns into an alien monster, and it looks awful. It was so bad. It was like, what are you doing? And there were so many filmmakers at the time, so many studios just wanting to use the new tech and the new, expensive stuff and just rushing out to make these CGI monsters and fill the screens with them. And audiences are just going, that looks like shit. What are they doing?
Yeah.
And so imagine being someone like Phil Tippett, watching your career get replaced by this crap.
Or just even like, I could have made that look better.
Absolutely.
Like if you would just, call me.
They did make like 17 more Species movies, though, so I guess the audience didn't mind that much.
Well, they've also made like 10 Saw movies, so, hey.
Maybe once you make the 3D model, it's just cheap after that.
John, we're up to like 30-something Amityville movies at this point.
Yeah, but you know what? At least those are all different studios.
I know, that's different.
But no, I get what y'all are saying. I will say, and I've expressed this before, I'm not as anti-CGI as a lot of people are, and like, especially in the horror community where like practical effects are better than everything, and it's like...
See, I don't agree with that.
If you knew
how much have a home.
Yeah, if people knew how much CGI was really in modern films, they just mean I don't like bad CGI. But yeah, who does? Of course, everyone hates bad CGI, but
Well, I feel like if today's 2022 CGI was what was replacing his career in those days, he'd probably say, yeah, it makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
That's bound to happen. Sure, that's awesome. Look at that. It's beautiful. But like in those days, watching that crap replace you,
Well, not
we have a spurned creator.
That's fair.
We have a mad god.
So I don't know if I don't know if being the elder spokesman of the GraveTalk podcast, y'all remember when T2 and Abyss and all those were coming out, and like you had they would interrupt like primetime TV and be like, tonight we've got a 30-minute expose on how we're using CGI to make the Terminator walk through bars.
That was a badass effect, though.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah.
But like literally, they would stop primetime TV and be like, "Tonight we're going to talk about CGI," like as if it was. And yeah, it did change things, but like it was almost like they were bludgeoning everyone who came before us. Like, shut up and take your place. We're here now, and it's like so. Yeah, to the Mad God aspect. I mean, that's what's kind of cool about this movie is like you can see it on different levels if you think about it, and I do appreciate that aspect of it. It's just. Again, I wish some of these maybe autobiographical or even like, message type sections had a little bit more cohesion between them.
Well, I think if they did, then whatever messages other viewers are getting and people, they want you to, I think he wants you to get your own kind of ideas out of it's a sandbox for your imagination to just kind of watch and go, maybe it's that. I don't know. I don't think there's a right answer.
Yeah, okay.
But
of course there is. The GraveTalk answer is you're hearing it right now.
Yeah.
Sean, what's your headcanon on
this
one?
Oh, I have no headcanon on this. You know what? One thing that was, I had a very hard time telling the sense of scale. So sometimes I think, are these supposed to be like regular sized people, or are they all tiny, or are other things huge? It was very disorienting to know, because every time I think something was regular sized, it would get stepped on by something else, and I was like, all right, I don't know what's going on here.
So that was one thing I appreciated, because like when you see the soldier that we see at the beginning is our first basis of size. And you're like, okay, cool, that's a man-sized thing. And then later on in the film, when we meet the last man, these things are big. They've got to be like 10 foot tall.
Yeah.
These soldiers that have been created. And I appreciated that. It always kept me on my toes.
Yeah. He steps on all those little gnomes. I felt so bad for them.
Yeah. There is no
David, no
set scale. Yeah, the gnomes, I don't know. I kind of felt like they deserved it.
They're just doing their own weird gnome shit.
So there's a lot of like this is the way nature is type thing. Like a lot of he uses a lot of chimpanzee noises. Just really kind of indicate animalistic behavior. This is just the circle of life in a lot of places. And I think that works out well. I wonder what this movie would have been with dialogue.
Oh,
worse.
I don't even know how that would have worked.
Yeah.
I think I heard a couple of English words.
There's a few
come over radio at one point or something.
It'd have to be a lot of voiceover, which never goes well. So.
And lo, Ziggurat begat so-and-so, and then he begat so-and-so, and he begat so-and-so.
As like the soldier guy enters his little diving bell, he's like, you're probably wondering how I got into this situation.
Saigon. I'm still in Saigon.
I forgot to mention that there's a soldier in the pod, by the way. That's up to say there's a pod going down on the line. So at this point, the line that the soldier is suspended by must be like miles long, because he is just about to reach his destination, and it's this some kind of old city now. Like we see actual streets like with lanes painted on them. So we're in some kind of humanistic place.
And this is below the dinosaurs. This is below the tomb of figures, and yes, very much a Phil Tippett moment, but like we're in this like destroyed civilization. He pulls out a map, and the map's kind of deteriorating as he's looking at it.
Yes, it's falling apart every time he checks it. In fact, he loses a little bit more of the map, but he's got just enough to get him to where he's going.
That'd be an interesting video game mechanic. Every time you check your map in a game, it becomes shittier.
Fuck, that's
some for the Elden Ring DLC, because that map did make the game a little. I'm a Souls veteran, and I was like, that's a little too easy to give me a map so I know where to go. Come on. So on the street, we find our first weird kind of interaction, which is, actually, we've already talked about the first one, which is just a group of garden gnomes come to life or fighting over something.
Scraps.
And he just squishes them. He just steps right on them.
They're bugs to him.
Yeah, they're only about 8 inches
And they're
tall.
humanoid. They're like humanoid people, like, walking around. So
they're played by actors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an actual
one of the few times you see live people.
And so that happens. And then he goes walking a little bit and he finds what looks like some kind of like an animal test lab containing a monkey tied to a table who's not in a good way. Some weird chicken dog monster things in cages that are just jumping and acting up. And then the saddest, filthy little Tool music video sex doll thing that's just like trying to entice him. And so he just shuts the door and walks away on that.
Yeah, it's like a marionette doll that's basically just masturbating in the corner.
Yeah,
it's like,
just trying
get it, girl, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean,
look at me. Come over here and let me out of this cage.
And he just closes the door.
Yeah, he's not interested.
He was like, this is weird even for me.
It's super weird. And then as he's closing the door, the monkey tied to the table is just going like, please take me with you in monkey language. So passing, walking on from that, he comes up to this strange diorama of 5 giant men tied to electric chairs. Each one has their own electric chair. And they're getting the piss shocked out of them. No, I'm sorry, they're getting the diarrhea shocked out of them.
Diarrhea, cha cha cha. Diarrhea, cha cha cha. Diarrhea, cha cha cha.
Which is just draining down into this funnel.
When he walks past them, these guys are huge. Like he is like the size of a house cat compared to these people in these chairs. And it's like, wow. Like because again, when he first looks at him, you think normal sized people. Then he walks past them and you're like, these are monolith of people. You know,
he's
massive.
Up to their ankles, maybe, if that, toes. Yeah, he's tiny compared to these things. But to remind us all that it's okay and just totally routine, there's a service elevator near them, which he gets on and then just takes that down further into the plant. So as he's going down, we can see that the waste is getting funneled into this tube where it goes down into the mouth of a vivisected sort of giant man who's processing all of this stuff.
It's kind of eating it, and it's going into like these weird, like open, loose organs that exist, like just hanging.
Yes.
Like chandeliers and stuff, and they're like processing and pumping, and as they expand, like there's eyes on the side of them that are looking around, and you're like, I mean, again, this is pure horror animated indulgence. Like so much of this at this point is like, check out what we did. And it's like, I'm here for it. Like it's so grody.
But there's always this weird thread kind of tying it all together. Because as he takes the service elevator down, you see that at the bottom level of the processing plant are these molds, and the stuff is getting injected into these molds. And the workers that run the factory at the foot of this whole weird plant come out of these molds. So like electric chair man shit turns into eventually workers who can and seem to do a pretty good job. There's a lot of workplace accidents.
Yes.
No OSHA. Yeah.
There's I wouldn't say there's maybe about like 7 to 10 minutes where we just basically see these workers, like sacrificing themselves into the furnace to keep the furnace going, setting up these like large monolith type things that are getting picked up and taken away, or they're getting tipped over and smashing the workers. They're getting run over by steamrollers. I mean, this is just an excuse for the animators to be like, check it out. We're going to just smash and explode some shit.
No, they're having a great time just killing these weird little workers. And
they look like yarn tool extras.
And they squish so satisfying too. It's kind of, once you get used to it, you're like, oh, like there's a part toward the end where it's just like because the giant monoliths kind of take flight and go flying off to where they're supposed to go, and then it just shows this like 30 seconds of just monoliths smashing through the people.
Yeah, just like if something's in its way, it's gonna explode right through it. And it's like it was a very Mr. Bill.
Yeah,
it's like oh no, it was just like okay, like at some point you're right, you kind of immediately become desensitized to it. And you're like, oh, this is gonna happen.
Yeah,
and you're having fun with it.
This is great. Look at that one, splatter. But they all stop working when the weird, gross baby thing starts talking over big TV. It's like this. It's a mature mouth, but the words coming out of it sound like the goo goo gagas of a newborn kid.
Yeah, it's like this giant ball of TVs, and there's like baby eyes on a couple screens, and there's like a giant diseased human mouth on one of them, and it's like, it's just making baby gibberish. And That's my one complaint. Okay, one of my other complaints about this movie is there's way too much baby noise. Babies crying is one of my like trigger sounds where I'm just like, I don't need this in my life.
Yeah, at the end there, like 10 minutes of baby crying. It's like,
and it was like, that's the reason I haven't played Death Stranding yet, is because your controller cries like a baby when it gets upset. And I'm like, I don't need that in my life.
Oh my God, I did not know. On the PlayStation version, they have the sound. Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, so when your little baby like pack gets upset, you have to rock it and stuff like that. It'll start crying, but it cries through the controller.
You have to rock the controller?
Yeah. You have to rock the controller to kind of like rock your baby and get it to calm down, your ghost baby or whatever it is.
Oh, the things I miss out on
it,
PC.
and I'm just like, no, thank you.
Wow, I did not know that. That is, yeah, I miss out on a lot of that stuff because I play on PC, but my frame rate is awesome.
PS5 master race. No, I'm just kidding.
So even the soldier, the assassin, as he's called on the by the description on the website, he stops to listen to the baby boss or whatever it is.
He's intrigued by it.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell if he could understand what it was saying or if he was just like really, because all the workers also stop and like are mesmerized by this thing.
Yeah, it's saying it's the CEO or something of shit people.
Yeah, it's not a movie.
Factory.
Yeah, it's the
boss baby.
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
What I did like though is the mouth does a pretty good job lip syncing the baby noises. Like it's convincing enough where you're like, oh,
I didn't notice that.
Actually,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Our soldier seems to have reached his destination. He opens up a hatch, and as he's about to go inside, one of the weird workers stops, and they lock eyes together in this moment of understanding. Like they're kind of just staring at each other.
Do you think that worker knew that he was there to destroy everything? Do you think that worker, that little worker, was kind of like, okay, I get what you're doing, or do you think it was more just kind of like we see each other?
No, I don't think he knew. I think it was a moment to show that these guys that we've been enjoying watching get crushed and squished and burned and all this stuff have sentience. Yep. That like it's curious and it wants to know what's going on, and it even kind of points at him when one of those. Because I forgot to mention, there's these big gross foremen who they're like. I called them wart balls with eyes testicles.
Yeah, I like warthogs, like weird, like warthog monsters.
Yeah, they look like they're mostly made out of testicles, but the testicles have eyes on them. But they do spray pretty high velocity shit projectiles at the workers that knock them on their ass a lot.
They got whips and stuff too.
And they whip them, yeah. But when he notices that one of the worker guys isn't working, it just goes over and starts stomping the shit out of him. Mm-hmm. And the last thing we see before the soldier goes into the hatch is that this little thing is suffering a lot. Mm-hmm. So, shame on us.
Yeah, I think that one guy was looking at the assassin and was just like, Mondays, huh? Like,
that scene is really important to me because it really does show that like whatever this mission this dude is on, he now has more than just like, I got to get to point A, point B, execute this. Like he now is like, okay, there is suffering, there's meaning behind this, and I really was glad we got that moment because it was like at that point I was rooting for the soldier at that point to get to where he was supposed to go. I didn't know what he was supposed to do yet, but like at that point I was like, okay, he has to do this now.
Yeah, I didn't really know that he was on a mission either. I was like, oh, is he like sightseeing? I mean, he was carrying a briefcase.
Well, because he kept having that map. He kept looking at the map and then checking his
fair.
surroundings. So I was like, he's trying to find something. And again, he keeps checking the map as he's going, and it keeps deteriorating on him.
And it's a really specific map. I mean, at one point he just kind of steps in the right place on the street and it crumbles beneath him and he's able to ride kind of like a little wire down, like he's sitting on a rope, that just happened to be there. It's real
like a zip cord type thing.
Yeah, it's not the kind of map that's designed based on actual logistics. It's more of like a magic map.
I got it as like, I wanted to say it was like a word of mouth map. Like, like, hey, like Tommy said there's a drop off here that you can take a wire down. Cool. Add it to the and it was like,
but it only would work once.
I know.
The whole road,
that's my problem.
Exactly.
Is like these people aren't surviving these missions. I'm like, how are they getting this data back? But they were also doing the Morse code, but he wasn't doing Morse code during this time.
We find that out later.
Too. Yeah.
We find out that strange magic witches make the maps, sometimes out of what looks like human skin. So ascending or descending through the hatch, we look like we're going downstairs and maybe like a basement of the plant or something, but then it opens up into this really cavernous open thing. But we see that by stepping on a worm and the squeal that it makes, we've alerted some kind of monster in the shadows that were there.
Almost like the Foreman monsters from above, but even like more grotesque and like scary looking. And it has like this weird, think the mouth from the monster in Howard the Duck, but with like a skull face on it that's like screaming. It was pretty intense. I mean, there's a reason this belongs in the horror genre.
Even more testically.
Yes. Did you notice a lot of testicles had nipples on the bottom of them too, like udders?
Yeah.
I was like,
I
okay,
did.
interesting.
Yeah, it left those kind of things out of my notes. I was just like, I don't want to talk about nipple testicles.
No, that's the kind of stuff we're here to let the people want to know.
So he finds a pile of suitcases, much like the one he's been carrying this whole time.
And we say pile, we're talking like piled above him. We're talking.
Yes.
I think there are multiple
50
mountains.
Oh
There's like-
yeah. It almost looks like like Ellis Island when they used to just chunk all the luggage in just piles and stuff. I don't know. That's too old of a reference for everyone to understand.
For you, what do you know about Ellis Island?
The year was 1926. Garrett was a young man.
I remember my note. I said, "Oh, so this is where all the world's briefcases went." Because if you notice, you don't see briefcases anymore. They're
We've all
not
got
out
phones,
there.
man.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the phone replaced the briefcase.
All of our documents are on our phone
I think
now.
the satchel did in the backpack.
Okay, you think the messenger bag?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw them as short trip suitcases. That's what I thought they were. Like small suitcases for a little overnight bags, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought they were. But he opens the one he's been carrying, and we find out what they actually are is bombs.
Dun
Yeah.
dun dun.
Big
Dynamite with a
freaky
clock on
time
it.
bombs.
Yeah.
Yes, the old cartoony looking bombs.
And that immediately clues you in. Like all these suitcases are those. So these are all the attempts.
Yes.
To blow this place up, and you're like, and when you see the amount of suitcases around, and when you see what's inside of it, it becomes very clear of like, this has been going on for a long fucking time,
and we haven't
unsuccessfully, obviously.
That's right.
How dispiriting for that guy.
And we have another failure because as he plants his bomb, the weird monster that's been stalking him kidnaps him, carries him away, and then we see the clock just kind of get stuck.
Yeah, it's like ticking down to midnight. And it's like tick, 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 and when it comes to the last second, you think it's about to tick and explode, but it goes backwards. And then it goes forwards and it goes backwards, and it'll never hit that last second. So I don't know if the bomb was flawed. I don't know if it was meant to be flawed. I don't know if there was some supernatural power stopping it from doing what it had to do. I took it as the bomb just didn't work properly.
I took it as some sort of magical power, because you got to imagine I think that same thing happened to every bomb in that brief, like every single person.
You think every single one of them stopped at the 1 second and couldn't get past it? Okay, interesting.
I think they all made it there, and this exact sequence just sort of played over and over.
I think there's people getting killed before they had a chance, but this guy actually made it to this point, but then it didn't go through.
Well, the monster kidnapping him is irrelevant to the bomb not working. So what I'm thinking is the bomb was never intended to work.
See, I thought that too, but then, but then we cut to the last man later on who's sending these soldiers down. He wants this to happen. He's like checking. He's like, is it done yet? Like looking down the hole. Like I took away as like, he wanted this to happen. I was like, why isn't this going through?
Maybe this is a metaphorical situation where these bombs are Phil's attempt to stop the transition of CGI, and you can't stop time from going forward. So he's tried all of these events, and they don't work.
He's stuck in that last moment of like, okay, all right.
Okay, maybe so, because what we find out is that the soldier himself is carrying something way more significant than the bomb. There's something special inside the soldier, because we're then greeted with
junk inside of him.
Well, we're then greeted with the surgery scene that Garrett enjoyed so much. And
I loved this scene, but god damn if it didn't need to be 3 minutes shorter.
if you like a lot of movies with jelly consistency, blood, squishy sounds, a repeating tick-tock of a clock with no music soundtrack.
For all the kids out there that love the TikTok, we got to sing for you.
That's right. Also,
That should be our first GraveTalk.
I heard, GraveTalk is coming. That's excited about that.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what you're gonna do on TikTok yet?
No, I just claimed the name because I was like, GraveTalk with a TOK. That's clever. I'll grab that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dances. I mean, obviously, we're all known for our dances.
Look,
big dancers.
I've been a firm advocate, but we need to have all of our guests basically dance to the Monster Mash, and we put that shit on TikTok. But I don't know how we're gonna do that just yet.
Yeah, we'd have to do it first. We can't ask our guests to do something.
Yeah, we can. We can do anything we want. We're the mad guy.
That's right.
Right? This is our podcast, baby.
Maybe
Mark is dead. All hail the new kings.
You can spurn your guests. You can watch them eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters. I mean, it's your
not appreciate their rotors.
If they disobey you and remain hostile to you, you act against them in wrathful hostility.
Give me your goddamn incense.
Yeah. You know what, though? I'll tell you,
Throw incense at them. Things have changed since Mad God. Welcome to GraveTalk.
the Old Testament God didn't fuck around. I can respect that. You know, he
You knew what you're going to get.
Yeah, he was not here for a good time or a long time. He was here to make you suffer and listen to your praise. Anything other than that, fuck you.
Fuck you!
All right, so I'm going to try to speed up some of this breakdown because it is a lot. It's a weird, like you were saying earlier, it's a weird kind of narrative. We can't really say like, oh, and then they go for a drive out to the country house where, the killer follows them. It's just like, this is just describing what happened with no idea.
They do go for a drive, though. You know what?
There's a nice drive scene.
It's a visual movie, which is hard to do via an audio narrative. But let's get into this scene because I really enjoyed this scene quite a bit.
Didn't you just say?
Yeah, they hated this scene.
Are we changing
the visuals of it?
Oh, okay.
The surgery stuff. I hated the clock part.
Oh, I see.
Like when the clock was ticking and then it was like 1 second and then they'd wait 5 seconds between the next tick.
Yes.
And then 1 second and then 10 seconds between the next click. Like that really bothered me. I was like, okay, we've done this. We're done. And then also when they kept pulling the stuff out of the inside, I was like, okay, like I did it like almost 20 times.
Yeah. So
I kept looking because every time they dropped whatever was inside, because it was like, we'll let you get back into it in a second. But like as he's pulling out the guts and the goo, there's coins, there's bracelets,
like
there's
thimbles, just all kinds of random shit.
Books.
Yes, yeah.
There's books and pages,
soggy books.
And as I was watching this, because they did it almost like 15 to 20 times. Every time I was like, okay, I would even pause and be like, okay, what am I supposed to be seeing here? What is the secret? And they did it so often and there wasn't really much that I was getting out of it. And I was like, oh, you kind of wasted my time. Like, that's my problem with that. Like, I didn't hate the scene. It just, I was like, every time they drop something, I'd be like, that means something. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And then I was like, they dropped something. What does that mean? I was like, okay, we've dropped coins like 9 times.
But yeah, I'll tell you what, after like the 5th time, wouldn't you be like, fool you once, shame on them. Fool you 20 times.
I was full. They could have had me doing this for like an hour and a half, and I still would have been there being like, at some point, it's got. Look, I've watched Fateful Findings by Neil Breen, and I am convinced that there is a meaning behind that movie. All right, if I'm willing to do that, I'm willing to sit through an hour of Mad God basically dropping coins in mush and me going like, this means something. I'm the dude from Close Encounters at this point.
If you ever find meaning in Neil Breen, please let us all know.
Yeah,
I will start my own podcast about it.
We'll have to get you some help. Now, isn't the fact that the clock is wonky here indicative that it's something about clocks why the bomb didn't work? Because this clock is doing a very similar type behavior.
It's also been splashed with guts, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
That could be affecting its function.
I took this as the
classic mechanical
soldier
failure.
The soldier who's been stripped of his skin, stripped of his like flesh and stuff like that, and is wrapped in gauze, has now been cut open and is basically flayed open. And a doctor and a nurse are pulling guts and goo and trinkets and books and paperwork and stuff out of this guy, and they're looking for something. They're frantically trying to find something.
Yes.
I took the clock slowing down as this soldier's mental state of like just what's happening. He's just he's lost a sense of time. It's just now he lives in this like eternity existence of pain and suffering as they look for what they're looking for.
Yeah.
But they eventually do find what they're looking for.
They do. But just to get what I forgot to mention though is that this isn't the only surgery room. This isn't the only time this has happened. Just like we had all the suitcases or the night bags or the briefcases, whatever they are, we have multiple surgery rooms stacked on top of each other.
With an open wall. Like you can see in the wall. Like
a Hollywood Squares kind of dated reference.
IKEA shelf,
yes.
Yeah.
And so I think that they're doing something very routine. These soldiers come down to try to blow up the whole place. They get captured, and then they put them on this, and then they get to watch the show of them getting dissected. And and I think that this time, however, they did find something, and I call that the baby worm.
Do you not think they find this baby worm every time?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think this is the special one.
I didn't think they did either, but I figured they had to have found enough of them to have a procedure in place, because the nurse later on, when she takes it to the witch doctor, and I use witch in like very high like capital letters, like they knew what to do.
Yes.
So I feel like they've done this before, but yeah, I felt like it was kind of more of like a, is this the cool prize inside the cereal box?
Yeah, maybe it's like it's something that has happened, but it's exceptional when it does happen.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think in the same way that the traveling through the city and all that and using the map that was falling apart the whole time kind of looked like it was the first time it was happening. But then we see all those different briefcases. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they did seem really excited and really nervous when they found...
Was they were finding dead ones. They were pulling out a few dead worm things out of the body, and they was dead, and he was chunking on the ground, and he looked discouraged. So when they find the live one that's crying, this is where the baby crying starts.
Yeah, if you're sick of the TikTok sound, it cuts straight to baby crying noise.
Yeah, don't worry, we got another annoying sound for you to deal with. Yeah, they find it, and at this point, they're kind of like, jackpot. And the nurse, whose eyes are visible, the doctor's eyes aren't visible, but the nurse's eyes are visible, gets really wide-eyed and almost kind of like, I couldn't tell if it was fear or excitement at first, and then you kind of find out it's both.
Yeah. So she walks off with the baby worm, and the doctor sticks around to drill into the skull of the soldier and run some kind of cables in, which he then uses like 1983 TV antenna technology to tune in this screen where he's seeing like a war scene where a guy that I called the fingernail priest. I don't know what is he the one you're calling the last man?
That's the last man.
The last man.
So
okay.
It's this very, and this is actually a human actor. Alex.
This is Alex Cox. He's not an actor. You guys heard of films like Sid and Nancy, Repo Man, Straight to Hell.
Yeah, no, he's a
badass.
Yeah. So Alex Cox basically is the last man, and he's the one.
Is he a man with them hands?
Yes,
man?
he's a man. Yeah. I'm thinking like who was the guy that went crazy and.
So those are just long fingernails? Yeah. I just thought he had really long fingers.
His toes are the same way.
Yeah, I thought he had long fingers and toes. I was like, all right.
No, it's like long fingernails that are like almost like, 3-4 inches long.
Don't they curl when you see people's
He even has special slippers that he can wear with those toenails.
Yeah, that's why I assumed was his actual just physiology.
He had some sandals and he was like, you know what? I customized these slippers for my toenails. I'm going to wear them because he has fun picking out his outfit.
Yeah, I respect that.
Right.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Rogers in that shit. He's like, well, time to go to work. Let's get the fun one. Let's get the cardinal outfit on.
Well, he's committed for that Guinness Book of World Records for longest fingernails.
Yeah, exactly. The surgeon is watching this, and this is now a cut. We're now in a completely new vignette.
Yeah.
Again, the transitions are nice because they work for a visual medium, but like for the story, it's just kind of something that happens. But yeah, we're watching the last man pick out his outfit. And he's watching outside. Yes, there's a war going on with the soldiers and also with some unique people that don't look like the soldiers. Yeah,
there's a crazy chaotic war scene going on with some kind of poison gas around, and it
World
seems
War
like
I, World War II type visuals.
It turned up to 1,000, and at some point, some kind of madness infects them all, and they all just start screaming together. And
what's the scene?
What's that?
It's the chanting. There's like this thing that comes over the air, and it's like and they all just kind of like, some of them start grabbing their head, and I thought this was the voice of God or something like that. Some of them start grabbing their head and like look like they're in pain. Others go into like this trance where they just kind of stand still and stare up at the sky. And I was like, oh, okay. But they only did it once that noise started.
Yes.
And so I was kind of like, okay, what is this? Is this the voice of God? Is this like the angels? Like what is happening here? But that's when we cut inside and started seeing the last man.
Well, I do just want to point this out because it was such a weird detail. As they're all screaming on the battlefield, there are two what look like businessmen just having sex, with each other.
I saw that one, that nice little Easter egg in the background. I was like, well, there you go. I mean, that's there.
Two men of a certain kind of taste that just know what they like, and they've gone out on a date to that battlefield so they can, have some real thrills out there. And you're just kind of going, okay, so
I wonder if that was the businessmen who profit from war having fun and getting off with this chaos and carnage that they create. I took that as a message of like, these guys can get fucked.
They're so safe that they can just go out and enjoy sexual activity together while everybody else is going crazy.
Making, getting in on dirty.
Yeah, just having
knocking
fun.
Boots.
I know what you're trying to say, girl. It's business time.
Dude, we can just keep going all day with this. Let's go.
So
I'd rather not. No, let's. No.
So after the priest has picked out a lovely red outfit, we walk over to a table where underneath the table, kind of in the back of the room, are like some weird witch ladies that are sewing together this map, and they've just finished it. So they hand it off to him.
You couldn't really tell. I mean, you could kind of see it was a little bit of a map, but it looks like it's made out of flesh.
Yes.
And they're like sewing it together, and they're frantically doing this. They look like the Norns. I don't know if anybody knows like Norse mythology, but the Norns, the three Norns that basically kind of weave, destiny, and so I kind of took them as like these existential witches that were like, here you go, here's what you need. And I was wondering how they were getting the information.
Yes.
So, because they do hand him this rolled up map, and then this is where he unfurls it on the table. Okay, they're making these maps.
Yes. So then he walks into a huge room where, hundreds of these soldiers are all there standing at attention, and you can see they're actually like 15 feet tall. They're big. And he brings the map up to another one of those pods, hands it off to the soldier inside, and then it drops just like at the beginning of the film on a line through the clouds. Only this time, we don't have all those layers anymore. This time, we're just kind of going straight out of the sky into something a lot more earthly, where there's like a city below.
Did you think that we just skipped those layers, or do you think that he went to, like, it was just they didn't have those layers on this run?
I think that it's a different time. I think that maybe what we're seeing is a memory in that soldier. Maybe the soldiers are clones or something like that. Because remember, we're still on the feed coming out of that either is coming out of or is being used as an antenna or something. But we're still watching the TV monitor that's going into the soldier's head.
This happen.
Yeah. So I thought maybe this was a memory or like a past one or something. Maybe a different world, different.
It looked like New York, the city. I thought I saw like the Brooklyn Bridge.
The second drop when he falls down, it is very much New York.
It's a post-apocalyptic kind of human city, And so he goes walking through it, and we see immediately it's pretty messed up. There's big giant viruses that are like zapping people with lasers.
There's weird red faceless prostitutes in an alley jerking off a minotaur.
There is that. Yeah,
which I was like, there we go. I was like, why not?
Oh, we forgot to mention there was like a little bit of like some kind of decadence thing in the first Descent that we watched.
We looked at that apartment complex.
Yeah.
There's like a hot dog, like fucking its bun. Yeah. It was really weird.
Yeah, food is having sex.
Killing a woman.
Yeah.
Well, she's laughing and having a good time, almost as if like that's the intercourse or something. It was, but then there's just like a guy just being Tom Waits with a piano in the next room and having a great time. So that's kind of weird. And this time we aren't greeted with any kind of like building like that, but there is a building off in a distance where a mysterious figure watches the soldier through a window. He's like spying on him, so he's expecting.
And I wondered if that was maybe the physical representation of the surgeon watching him. But again, I didn't know.
I don't think
it's the mad god.
Oh, maybe.
Keeping.
Oh, the surgeon. Oh, yeah, because the only way the priest can monitor him is kind of like a little bit of Morse code, some kind of radar room that he's gone into.
Which you can only do in the pod.
Yes.
So
yeah, once he's left the pod, that's it.
Out. And the cool effect about this apocalyptic New York is everything's kind of like ash covered, but it's also rusted as if it was like bronze. Like it's got that green and that like copper.
Yeah.
The copper, that's what I'm thinking of. Like when it all kind of like rusts, when copper rusts, it has that look across the entire everything, which I thought was a really nice effect.
Little patina across the whole apocalypse.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. So he finds a motorcycle, goes through the city, seeing all kinds of stuff like the Minotaur hand job, and then the motorcycle breaks. He finds a nice military style Jeep, gets into that, and then leaves town, annoyed that some kind of Mexican music keeps trying to come through the radio, and every time it does, he starts smashing the dashboard until it turns back off.
See, I didn't take that as more as like him annoyed at the Mexican. I thought it was like, this is going to give away my position.
I could see that. Yeah.
That's the way I kind of took it. I was like, shut up.
Yeah. I was like, this guy really doesn't like music. So he encounters this crazy war zone where heavy artillery and armored tanks are just blasting the shit out of each other while like nuclear explode. Once he gets beyond that, you could see, out beyond the dust and everything that like on the horizon he's heading toward is just like nuclear explosion after nuclear explosion. It's
that was
constant.
weird because he drives through that military war zone where there's like these giant, like building sized tanks that are just destroying each other. They have no concern other than just basically destroying everything around them. They're trying to take out each other. The set is insanely detailed and crazy. This is where the army men stuff are, the piles of men, the buildings that have been destroyed. These tanks in this scene, like the environment they're destroying is done so well. And I do want to kind of I don't want to spend too much time on it because I can get really nerdy about it, but like the level of animation that these dudes and these people in general just put into this project. Like when the guy steps on rubble, like 7 different pieces of rubble move according as if he like put pressure on it. Like you had to animate and move each one of those little pieces of like shale and brick below his like feet. And it was like, good God, like the attention to detail. You can see why it was a labor of love, but man, throughout the whole thing, they did not give up on that effort. It is present in everything here.
Yeah, Phil and his friends are really showing off in this movie. It's like a whole lot of look what we can do. Try to figure that out.
Yeah, if they like approached it as like maybe this is like a swan song to practical effects type thing, you know, or maybe their swan song at the very least.
Yeah, I mean they're flexing. It's pretty impressive. So he rides past the pile of corpses and then he finds his destination, which is this weird kind of like concrete downward spiral, just wide enough for his Jeep to get down. But what we notice at the entrance to this thing, another pile of suitcases.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting because I was like, did they not make it down? What stopped them?
Yeah.
Or did they have a change of heart and not actually go the distance? Because think reverse tower, you know, like when they drill, like, you know, in quarries, they'll like, you know, do like a little like I don't know, like a 12-foot like, you know, hole. And then they'll go a little bit smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as you go down. You kind of like have to like go wide and go down. It's like that. So it's almost like a reverse Tower of Babel.
Oh, yeah.
Into nothing. But like all those suitcases sitting there, I was like, did they have a change of heart? Where are these guys? Because we didn't see anything that tried to kill them at this point.
I thought it was like a warning, like, you know, look, all your friends failed.
Okay.
You can try to drive your little Jeep down here, but we know about you because, you know what, here's, you know, 50 of your friends dead.
I like that. That makes sense. Yeah.
That's kind of creepy. I like
it's like whatever's down there is sending the suitcases back up, going like, yeah, maybe you'll win. Yeah, probably not though. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I think that might be what it is, but we'll never know because as he's descending, that's when the weird doctor
the tagline
guy
for this movie. You'll never know.
You'll never know. That's when the doctor loses the video feed. It cuts out, and now we're back in the operating room, and we cut to the baby worm and the nurse as she's walking down the hallway. And there was a weird little moment there. As she's walking down the hallway that I swear that was CGI. It looked wrong. Like I looked like for a moment they were like, let's put some bad CGI in it. Remind everybody of what they're missing.
I wouldn't be surprised if they used some CGI. I don't think Tippett's like opposed to CGI. Again, I know he was just really like, the story is like when he saw it in like Jurassic Park, he was like, well, you know, fuck it. You know, like, so I wouldn't be surprised that there is some in here, but I know that there's a lot of like real footage mixed with like the way they would cut frames to make it look like it was animated.
Yeah.
They did that with the doctor and the nurse.
It wasn't the movement. It was the shading. It had a look of texture mapping. It had what real like computer
After
graphics
Effects
come
type
from.
stuff on, yeah.
No, like that was a wireframe sculpted nurse with a texture map of like everything looked a little off, a little blurry. Not quite. It looked wrong.
Like Quake 3.
And yes,
I'll go back and check that out because
there would be no reason for there to be CGI in this scene. Like it wouldn't make any sense. And I'm probably wrong, but it just looked like it just enough for me to go like, is that what that was? And and it wasn't just that scene because it does show her walking down the hallway earlier too, before we go to the memory, and the same reaction. I was like, I swear that's computer generated.
Well,
badly.
there was something I found about this one. They actually put people in puppet suits to make them look like they were wrong. Like, so like the nurse actor or whoever could have been in a suit during a certain shot, like where they like were in a suit of themselves. So it looked incorrect. Like it looked like it was animated. So I don't know if that's what it was. I'm going to go check that scene out because that actually sounds interesting.
It looks weird. Just see what you think. I don't know. Listeners at home, just see if it looks weird to you too.
Someone get Phil on the phone. Let's fucking settle this right now.
Yeah, there's something wrong with it. So she goes to a big giant door where it opens up, and what I call the plague witch is standing there, a big creepy thing that I swear was the person or whatever standing on the spiral tower at the beginning.
See,
it looked a lot like it.
I saw that too, and I was like, that's the person from the very Tower of Babel at the beginning. I loved this design. So it's a very dark, kind of hunched over figure. It's got a very large hat, think a large brim, but around the bottom of this brim, there's like ribbon and like strands of like cloth with trinkets and bones and like everything that can jingle and stuff like that. Like almost like a veil, like this weird, creepy kind of like beaded curtain veil of like dirty cloth and black, dark, material. And behind it, you can kind of see the face, and then it's got the plague doctor mask with the long, beak-like nose. There's shrouds of rag and stuff like black rag hanging off the witch doctor, and it's all flowing and moving in the air. It kind of looks CG because I know they can do it that way. Oh, I'm sorry, it looks stop motion animation. But man, there was so much of it. I was like, that had to be insane if they did that by hand.
You know what it looked like to me? A little bit like fabric in water. Like maybe they had some way of moving that stuff in water.
Maybe.
Yeah,
They did that oil thing at the beginning.
Yeah.
It could have been, very
These
much.
guys are magicians, man. They have tricks and things they've been doing for decades, and we would just go, really? Wow, that's how that's done. I mean, they're showing off.
Gods of animation, if you will.
Absolutely. Creators.
Those mad lads did it.
Angry artists. So after delivering the baby to the baby worm to the plague witch, the nurse just nervous the whole time. The giant door slams, almost crushing her. And then she goes and lays down on her pile of hay where she cries herself to sleep. And at the last moment, she hears the cry of a baby and it startles her back awake.
Because the baby, when he gets handed over, like stops crying.
Yes.
And then when the door slams and it kind of goes away, she goes and lays down. She sheds a single tear, which I was like, does she know what's about to happen? Does she know that like this is going to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what she knows, but that kind of casted doubt. I was like, what does she know that we don't? But yeah, the baby starts crying like horrifically from behind the closed door, like, and she just kind of like opens her eyes wide, like, oh shit. And I'm like, okay. And then we cut away. And I was like, damn it, go back. I want to know more.
Well, and it seems to me like it would be hard to feel much sympathy toward a bloody baby worm screaming thing. But she swaddled it like a baby and carried it for a very long time on this walk to the plague witch. So maybe she did care about it at this point, but maybe she does know that something bad is going to happen to this apocalypse soldier gut baby worm bloody crybaby thing, and it bothers her.
Yeah,
it could be. So the plague doctor walks through a really interesting landscape where it's like giant blocks are opening to let him pass and then closing behind him. You know, just like the big iron door. It's like
Think like a top-down isometric labyrinth type, effect from the movie Labyrinth. It's got some really cool like brickwork and stuff.
And it seems almost like it's to isolate this guy from whatever else is going on. But as he's going through, he walks through these crazy like ecosystems and all this stuff. But he does walk through that cavern of statues from the first scene, and we see Harryhausen's. He goes back through that. So I guess we're back on that surface level. I don't know. But that was kind of interesting. We revisit that. And then we cut to who I call Pussface. And Pussface is like a scientist
Igor
something like that. He maintains this lab, which is, I guess, fueled by these giant piles of shit because he walks out of his lab where he finds two trolls just going at it, smacking each other in the face with shovels. They're both wearing iron masks, and he stops and kind of yells at them a little bit, and then he pulls this lever and just shocks the piss out of them for like a good half a minute,
It's very sadistic. It's almost like he's punishing them like, hey guys, what are you doing? Stop doing this. But then he kind of gets a little too into electrocuting these things.
He's having fun. And I would say even the animators got a little too into it because some of the parts that go stiff on these trolls when they're getting shocked is you notice it. And so he's punished them. They go back to shoveling, and then he walks on to where he has this lab and he has this like terrarium where he's dropping food into there, and you see these. It's beautiful in there. It's like this fungal ecosystem with these cute little aliens. They're so happy,
bright and colorful and pastel, and it's a complete juxtaposition of the hellscape we've lived in for an hour and 25 minutes now. And it's just like this beautiful little like, oh, wow, look at this. And these like little like Katamari Damacy King type things come out, and they're eating mealworms or whatever they were.
They're so happy with like happy little xylophone music playing. And that's something we've been neglecting to mention this whole time is like this film has a great little soundtrack. It's cool. It works, man. It's not like
very ambient, but like very, I don't want to say experimental, but almost abstract at times. It's not like a Tool video when you hear a song and then some shit's happening. It's not like Peter and the Wolf where the themes are carrying you through the story. No, the sound is just there to kind of just really help create this environment that you exist in. Yeah. And every location has its own unique feel, and the sound does do a really good job of kind of helping you feel like I'm in a new place, or this is the tension of this particular zone.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job. I mean, it was up there with like Stuart Copeland kind of soundtracks. It was really cool. A lot of xylophone though, surprising amount of xylophone.
You can never have too much xylophone, so I was a fan.
It's a good instrument. I used to really enjoy playing that in music class, but I never bought one for myself as an adult, and I always swore I would.
We're going to start a Patreon. We're going to get you a xylophone.
Yeah.
So he, after watching the chaos that ensues when he unleashes a little spider monster to stalk and kill one of his happy little aliens, he, satisfied with himself, he starts cleaning the lab, preparing for his guest, who is the Plague Witch.
Well, see, I thought it was the witch's lab and he was just the caretaker. I thought he was like the little like Igor who was supposed to be cleaning the lab for the Plague Witch.
That makes sense. That's probably what it was.
Yeah, more like this is like her, like the Plague Witch's little like, like, hey, keep the place clean. Go get me a new Erlenmeyer flask, like that kind of thing.
It seemed a little high upper scale for Puss Face.
Left to his own machinations while the parent is gone. One scene right before the Plague Witch comes back, the Plague Witch is walking with the worm baby. And as it's walking, and this scene fucked with me, like this weird little alien skeleton monster, like it's like mama, like walking behind it, like begging for attention, begging for like acknowledgement, like, and it's a toddler child monster, and the way it's saying mama is like just so like, for the love of God, stop and look at it. Like, pay attention. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And the Plague Witch doesn't even acknowledge its existence. And as the Plague Witch is walking, it's walking faster than this little, like, baby monster can, like, waddle after it. And it's just, like, its voice is breaking because it's getting like, this is a failed experiment that the witch doctor doesn't give a shit about. And it is like, oh, my God, that fucked me up. I was like, you piece of shit. I was like, you deserve whatever's going to happen to you. I was hoping those bombs would go off at that point.
I feel you, and you're a good person, but that thing did not look like something I'd want to talk to. Like it looked very, it was so needy, I'm just saying and you're just sitting there going, okay, maybe this time I'll pet it or something, and then it's like, oh, don't walk away, and it's grabbing your clothes, and you're going, see, this is why.
You want to come see my room? Yeah. It's really cool. I got a new Power Ranger. Like,
yeah, exactly.
See, I took it as like the witch doctor created this thing and then just abandoned it. Like, oh, you're not what I want, or you're not what it's like. I don't know. I always have a weird spot for like those who create and then ignore. Alien Resurrection.
Yeah.
One could argue not a fantastic movie. One could argue it's Blade 2 in space. One could argue it's Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust in space. But like when you walk in that room and it's like all the like Ripleys that are fucked up and mutated and stuff like that, it was like, you pieces of shit. Like you played God and you like you created a life of suffering and you are ambivalent to it, and that just drives me crazy. I don't know why. Like, in movies do that, it always just like, I will hate no one more than someone who's like, yes, I've created it, now go away. You're just like, no, you fucking take some goddamn responsibility here. So
you put one in the forehead like a good bad owner should.
Honestly, that is like a very like heartbreaking concept, but I could like respect that of like, you didn't leave this thing to suffer on its own. Like, you at least were like, I'm not going to be there for you. Boom. Taken care of.
I agree with everything you guys are saying, but still, there's a point where that baby monster has to accept that being super weird and needy is going to affect its social life, and it needs to be something that people want to hang out with.
Super weird and needy. I need to believe there's a better way out there.
Couldn't it be that the Plague Witch is teaching that monster?
No,
you
let me stop you right now, John. Let me stop you right now. Whatever your headcanon on this,
I got you.
Wrong.
I got you. The world is shitty and terrible, and nobody gives a fuck about you. So I'm gonna have to toughen you up, because we saw what those little soldier dudes had to navigate through.
Put a metal mask on and electrocute it. At least give us some attention. That's all I'm saying.
You can't all be the Minotaur. Some people are given the hand jobs. So.
I think that's probably the ultimate lesson Phil Tippett wanted us to take from the film. Sometimes you're the Minotaur. Sometimes you're the weird little man in the alley giving the Minotaur a hand job.
Yeah. You wanted me to have a clue. I think I get the movie now.
Success!
All right, so the rest of this is all pretty much like end of 2001 visual chaos, but basically They take the baby worm, not the needy baby that Garrett feels so bad about. They take the baby worm, who I guess has a better fate because they put it in a crushing machine there in the lab. They squish it into goo. They put the goo into a crucible, bring it up to about 2,000 degrees, and then pour it out into a nice little shiny ingot, which
and
the Pussface, Pussface then takes that ingot, puts it in a mortar and pestle, crushes it up into the most beautiful gold dust baby cocaine you've ever seen.
This is a beautiful scene too, when he crushes that the ingot into like the dust, like the way it like sprays out of the pestle and stuff like that is so fucking cool.
Oh yeah, whatever real world substance that actually was, because it was really cool. We got to get some for parties because that was like neat stuff. It wasn't glitter. Yeah, like it was magic. Whatever it was, I'm sure it's toxic as hell. But
when that play doctor first walked into its place, I was like, I swear to God, if I see Jared the Goblin King here, I'm gonna be so pissed. It looked like a very labyrinth like place at first. I was like,
he's just like in the bathroom or in the background on a chair, juggling a couple of crystal balls and just humming.
Getting a hand job from a minotaur, classic.
Yep. So they take the baby dust on a plate and they open this window into what looks like the flame of frenzy, chaos, the glowing bright yellow light.
Like a flaming black hole.
Yes. And they just dump the baby cocaine into that. Mm-hmm. And
then time and space gets high as fuck.
Yeah.
We get like what? 10 minutes of weird, like visual, like glorious, like, effects on the screen, colors, very 2001, as you said.
Yeah.
And well, yes, but also with a kind of out of place scene of what looks like a little Planet Mobile with a flying saucer.
Yeah,
on
like
a string,
a 1950s.
like some Ed Wood kind of thing for a moment there.
Well, it's very indicative of the Big Bang. Like, so what I took away from the scene is like he throws this dust in, it causes this massive explosion. It creates, because it does have the solar system and the dust, and it's got planets with like meteors hitting them and cracking it and making and then it like kind of transitions into a line of planets that looks like a mobile, and then has a little like alien ship.
The worst flying saucer you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just like a little UFO.
Yeah.
But I was like, what is happening now? I was so upset.
This was the beginning of creation, life. This was the Big Bang. Like this witch doctor created its own, like the time.
It was
recycled.
a Big Bang.
Guys, that UFO, that planet. I mean, that's kind of the beginning of special effects.
Yeah. Oh shit!
So maybe he's using this film as a way to reinvigorate and Big Bang and recreate people being interested in stop motion as a way to restart. All over again,
it just has
interested in this.
Just a few frames of like
with Harryhausen.
But doesn't the planet like become shitty pretty much immediately?
Well, that's the thing. Is like this is So we see the dust, the circle, the solar system. We see planets form. We see the little CGI or not CGI, but the little UFO.
Yeah.
Let's keep talking about the UFO, guys. Let's really drive that home.
Look, I'm just trying to get us back to a point of reference. And then we end up on a planet, and that planet starts basically developing and growing and life and just weird and then it becomes chaos, and then there's war, and then there's like a city. Well, there's a city beforehand.
But the city looks like a modern city.
Yeah, it
looks like one of ours.
Chicago or
looks
some
totally
shit.
normal.
There's a radio tower. The radio tower starts beeping up top, and then boom, we start getting crazy effects.
We
in the
cut
sky.
down to the street.
Yes,
down to the street below, where
when I say boom, I don't mean like a bomb. I just mean we see like crazy stuff, like colors in the sky and stuff like that, and then we cut down to the street.
Yes, and on the street below, a couple of child soldiers are kind of running around and like playing with spray paint and vandalizing and stuff or whatever, graffiti. And they see one of those suitcase bombs from earlier in the film.
Did they see it or do they have it?
I don't think they had it. I think it was there.
Okay, I thought they brought it with them, but okay, they find one of the suitcase bombs.
And as gunshots are being fired at them, they set it off, and I guess it just destroys the universe, because it's like the city goes, the planet goes, and then we start flashing through just a few frames at a time of like scenes from earlier in the film, and everything is just burning and going all crazy.
See, I took this as the youth basically finding this bomb, killing what Hollywood has basically said is the new standard, and basically like, no, this is rad. We're going to bring this back.
Ooh.
I saw this as like the youth being inspired, like the way things are, because they were spray painting an anarchy symbol. It's always the kids that are going to like bring shit back or revitalize. I mean, Kate Bush is popular right now. What the fuck is happening? Okay,
I'm sorry, Kate Bush is viral right now.
Yeah,
okay,
viral. Get with the times.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
running up that hill is a viral hit.
Okay,
yeah.
I never in my life thought I'd be hearing this much Kate Bush again, and I'm just like, yo, great song, but what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, really.
So, but no, I took this scene as like, like the cycle repeats, and then it was like, it's the youth that are going to like bring it down. And then, because of what they're doing, they're invigorating, they're reinventing. And I don't know. I thought that was a really cool kind of like end cap on things.
I like the optimism.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I don't know that kids are bringing back stop motion though.
They're bringing back cassette tapes.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know what that's about.
Just wait for them. They're bringing a lot of stuff back, man.
Yeah, I heard. I saw online today that some VHS sold for $50,000.
What was it?
It was a sealed Back to the Future, and it was quote unquote graded. And it's like,
You
y'all
can't grade a sealed thing. I mean, I guess you could.
But VHS tapes just degrade anyway, just by nature. So I mean, unless it's like vacuum sealed.
I've got a lot of classic ones at the house that you got a good VCR. They still look
I
pretty
gave
good.
Mark a ton of them, so yeah. He's got 2 copies of Shawshank Redemption because everyone just kept dumping VHS in my house, and I was like, "Why do I have 2 copies of Shawshank on VHS? I never even bought a copy of Shawshank on VHS." And I was like, "Here, Mark, take these."
I've made my feelings on 480 known, let alone 360 or whatever ridiculous resolution VHS fucking crayons on construction paper.
320 by 240. I want to
See,
say.
okay, yeah. I don't need to watch postage stamp movies in this day and age.
So after all the destruction and everything, we cut back to what I was calling Pussface's lab, but Garrett cleared up that it's most likely the Plague Witch's lab. Pussface just works there.
It could be like a co-working space, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I missed something. After all the destruction, everything is formed into a black hole.
Yes.
And the black hole kind of throws monoliths out. And then we cut back to Plague Witch's lab, where the clocks are speeding up. We go faster and faster, faster. And then we get a scene of another suitcase bomb. And it's right about to detonate. And as it hits its timer, a cuckoo clock comes out instead. And
a stop motion like little like weird monster bird is like cuckoo cuckoo, and then it looks at the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and cuckoos at you one more time.
Yes,
I'm crazy for Cocoa Puffs.
And we cut to darkness. We sit for a second, going, "What the hell was that? Why a cuckoo clock? What?" Then it wasn't even a normal cuckoo clock. It was like a mutant, weird, like the cuckoo was alive and freaky. And
Woody Woodpecker, man.
What in the world was that?
It would have been almost more
And
strange
then-
if it was a regular cuckoo clock, though.
That would be weird.
Wait a minute, movie's not over. We're back in the old war room with Alex Cox, the fingernail priest, and he's still looking down the hole where they sent the last pod, just waiting. And then that's it. Phil Tippett's Mad God.
And that's why I was like, it's like, oh, like, is he sending this down to destroy? Like, is he going down to try to like, because I thought maybe Phil Tippett was the last man. Like, like he was the Alex Cox character. Like, I'm going to send these people down to destroy what I hate and what's become unruly and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, did it happen? I leaned away from the mic. Sorry. Like, did it happen? Is it happening?
I like that. You leaned away to look down the hole.
Yeah,
That's
actually,
fine.
I looked down the hole as I was saying. I was looking down the hole, so it's an audio medium. It makes sense.
Yes.
Again, and there's just so many ways you can interpret all this that like I don't know. I can't say I'm right, but it was just so interesting. And then we get the end credits is like a whole xylophone song over the credits.
that song slaps.
More xylophone.
Yeah.
Really, really jaunty little xylophone song. And there is a post-credit, I guess.
The guy's eye.
Yeah, some thunder strikes, and then we see an eyeball kind of looking around.
Which is
frantically.
reminiscent because after the oil takes over the Tower of Babel, we get an eye for a second
That's
before
right.
we start the movie. So
That's
it's
right.
almost like it's like you're watching this and like I don't know. Again, there's so many things that we could be reading into, but that's what I love about kind of like experimental film though is you get to flex your brain.
Yeah.
You do get to kind of like be like, okay, I think it's this, or I thought, blankety blank blank.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I watched it twice this weekend. I think I need to just give it a third watch where I'm not taking notes. That's probably pretty important, but I'm not pausing it because there's definitely a rhythm to the film that I want to get on board with. Like I want to get into the way the movie. Yeah, it sounds dumb, but like the pacing and the rhythm of the film. I want to get in there.
There's a cadence to it that I think trying to analyze it the first watch I may have missed out on as well.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to watch it again because I think there's something there. Also, I'd love to like put some music on quietly in the background and watch it.
Okay, yeah.
You know,
It
see if
totally
that shit matches
syncs
up
up
with
with-
Wizard of Oz or some
Yeah,
shit, you know?
exactly.
Or Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
You know? But it's like a bad Pink Floid album. It's like Animals, you know?
Turns out, Kiss albums, every one of them, it syncs up to.
John, why would you do that to me?
Yeah, only the albums where they didn't wear makeup.
Typical John, bringing it back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Real Phil Tippett over here.
No, we call that narrative conclusion. Phil doesn't know about that.
John, changed your mind at all after discussing Mad God? You still feel the same exact way about it you did at the beginning?
Okay. It is a marvel of artistic talent, and I think people should watch it just because it's incredible to see what people who are so passionate and talented at their craft can create. But I think it's also a testament that just because you're good at one craft doesn't necessarily mean you're good at another craft, like crafting a story or telling a story. But I think it's still worth a watch. Also, it was more boring than we let on. I'm not gonna lie. For some of it, I'm just like, all right, I get it. I get what I get what I'm seeing here. Like, could we get
Do you
this
feel
over
like
with?
you'd seen stuff like that before, and that's why it was boring? It wasn't surprising or anything?
Maybe I'm just like numb to the whole concept of horror movies. Like, because a lot of the reviews are, this is the most ridiculous visuals we've ever seen, and like, yeah, I get, like, yes, I mean, it's very creative, but we've seen that one movie, Kuso, right? It kind of reminded me of not a horror movie, but it reminded me of like Nine, which is another stop motion movie with a little rag doll going through a post-apocalyptic world.
I think 9 might have been CG though.
Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah, I think 9 was computer animation that was supposed to look like that.
But the
style,
visuals,
but yeah.
for some reason, it reminded me of an older movie called Delicatessen.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
The ambiance of it feels very similar. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, and I will be the first to admit, as someone who loves experimental animation, someone who loves animation in general, and will just always get excited about it. I don't care what style we're going with. It's an art form that I just hope gets resurgence. I hope it never goes away. I'm loving to see that there's so many anime movies that are getting popular, nowadays and accepted with global release. I will agree with you. This movie is boring, but it's boring if you go into it expecting it to hold your hand, and it really didn't hold your hand. It kind of basically what it did is it basically turned off the lights, closed the park, and said, "Here you go, Fiesta Texas is yours. Enjoy." And you're like, "Whoa, wait! I don't know how to run this ride." And they're like, "Bye, see you in the morning." And you're just like, okay, cool. This could be wild or this could be fucked up.
I don't think following the basic tenets of storytelling is holding your hand, though. That's like very dismissive of the idea of there is a framework of how generally you tell a story through film, right? And we have been very, very dickish about other movies that have deviated from the framework.
But this was not designed as a cohesive story that had to be told from A to B. This was a lot of little things that have been done.
Sure.
I mean, he had ideas for stuff, but these are projects that have kind of formed together. So it's almost like taking the class's group projects and then being like, okay, now let's put these all into one project. There's going to be some, I don't want to say hurdles, but there's going to be some disconnect and some
that's fine.
bumpiness.
I just want to make sure our listeners know that is what they're getting into, because I don't think that is how it's being advertised, on Twitter and on Shudder. That is not the message that is getting across. It's the ads for this movie are you're going to see the most bonkers, crazy shit you'll ever see in your life. It's an astonishing film.
The scariest film since The Exorcist.
Shudder is really turning it up to 11, and I don't think that is accurate advertisement.
I will say this. Again, I did not know what the story was. I did not. I mean, I've seen the snippets. I heard a little bit about some of the concepts, but I mean, I did not know what Mad God, the finished project, was going to be. Based off the advertisements from Shudder, based off what I was seeing, those being hey, this is coming out. I was like, oh, you're right. It is being presented in a very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it does not come across as the most experimental, mind-blowing shit you'll ever see. It basically comes across as you're going to love this weird, dark animated movie.
Yes, if there were more, I think I would have been better about it if the discussion around this movie was more upfront about what you're actually getting, which is, and look, I love headcanon. I love applying my own thoughts to stories. That's fine, but I feel for a whole movie, they should let you know, like, hey, what you are seeing is not going to be effectively a completed product.
It's a complete product.
I mean, it's a movie that
I know what you're
starts and
trying to
ends,
say.
but you are bringing
yeah.
the work we had to do to finish the story or to build a story. And also, we don't even know
It's
if we're
Blue
right.
Apron. We were given the ingredients. We had to cook it ourselves.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
Fine, we Mad Libs the story
somewhat, yeah.
to the framework of this film. Is it the right
Speaking
story?
of Blue
I don't
Apron,
know.
get at us. We could totally use some sponsorships, and I could definitely eat better than Pop-Tarts and fucking,
Blue Ape. I have not heard them advertise at all. Are they
I
still
don't know.
around?
I don't know. I have no idea. I just thought it would be.
Squarespace. That is who is single-handedly supporting the podcast industry.
I just don't know why
yeah.
Audible hasn't gotten for us. Dude, I will do audiobooks.
Oh, I love audiobooks. But anyway, I think
Romance novels, that's it.
John, I think you're being a little unfair. I want to get back onto that because
Yeah.
I think that you're criticizing the film because of promotions that you've seen for the film. I don't
Fair.
think that Phil Tippett and the gang think that they've created the most experimental film ever. I think they created a work of art, and they hope we'll enjoy it. And they've shown us a lot of really cool stuff for us to let our imaginations go on and just enjoy.
okay, that's fair.
I think it's like walking into an art gallery where an art show where there's abstract stuff on the walls, non-objective art, and just being angry that like I don't know what that picture is of.
Yeah, it's just fine. I also don't like that kind of art. So, I mean, I respect that I'm not the audience for this film, but I want to be the voice for our listeners who are also not the subset of our listeners who are also not the audience for
I
this
think
film.
that's fair because I do think there's probably a large chunk of our audience that is not going to enjoy this movie, and I would hope that they would, and maybe I'd love to be pleasantly wrong, but I just think that I see your point, John. And I will go with you on this journey, but I do feel like it's not necessarily the responsibility of marketing to set the pace. I mean, how many movies have we seen in our lives that were the trailer? A 1 hour photo with Robin Williams is a good fucking example of that.
What's
that
the trailer
movie
like
came
for
out.
that?
Oh, the trailer came out and it was just like, oh, Robin Williams in a role that you won't believe. Oh man, blah blah blah. I worked at the theater when that came out, and people walked out and were pissed at us. They were like, I want my money back. That's not a Robin Williams movie. It was like, no, that's straight up what you're getting. And it was like, they were mad because it was just completely marketed in a way
that was not Genie.
I mean, they did kind of like try to make it like in a role that you wouldn't believe, unlike you've ever seen him before, but they didn't be like, this movie's fucking creepy and messed up. And Robin Williams is an asshat, you're not going to like him. Like, people were pissed. I mean, so I could see where you're going with it. I'm with you, but I also don't think that to Matt's point also, I don't think that should be held negatively against the film, but I think you're both doing
But
a public.
it colored my interpretation of the film, right? Because it's how I viewed it going. Maybe if I watched it again now, knowing what I'm getting into, maybe I'll like it better. I probably won't ever watch it again, but if I did, maybe I would. But I think it's fair that that's the perspective that I approach this film as.
That's what the GraveTalk's all about. Different opinions, different perspectives, respecting those, and calling out John when he's dead fucking wrong. So,
which happens all the time, which is fine. You know what? I don't.
Look, everyone hates my opinions too, so I'm with you, John.
Yeah.
I get it.
I can have an unpopular opinion all the time. So.
John, what about the craft aspect of it? Like, what about the point where you're watching it and you're going like, this whole crazy city is like on a folding table in this guy's bedroom right now, and because probably not his bedroom, but his home studio.
I get what you mean though. But that part's amazing, and I don't want to detract from the work that he's done or the team has done. That's why I think people should watch it, because it is like a great testament to what can be done with practical effects. That part's cool.
One of the wildest things I ever saw was at the McNay in San Antonio. They actually had some of the Nightmare Before Christmas sets on display, and I can't tell you how many times I caught the bus over there and saw them repeatedly, because you can see them 500 times and stare at them for hours, and you'll just keep finding new shit. And you're like, holy crap, that floorboard is lifted just enough so you can see that spider crawling. And you're like, who the fuck? Don't you have a job to do? Don't you have families, wives, kids, anything? What is going on here? Just
they do have a job. It's to make that movie.
But the level, but the level of detail again, and maybe that's just maybe that's me. I have stars in my eyes whenever I see this stuff. I do get a little bit blinded to the craftsmanship of it, the sheer craftsmanship. That's not a great sentence, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. I mean, look, here's what I'll tell you. It's no Team America World Police. Okay, you want to know about practical effects? No, I'm just kidding.
I had a moment when I was in college where I walked into this gallery and there was a switch on the wall, and I turned it on. And on a projector screen in the front, this video of looked kind of like a drone footage of like flying over a field, and then like a camera going through the aisle of an airplane with nobody in it. You know, okay, what's that? And then at the same time, there were these white boxes on the walls that were just, I could see lights flashing and hear stuff going on. And I'm just going, what is this? I almost walked out. And then I realized that all the stuff I was seeing on the screen was the live feed from inside those boxes. That everything there were miniature sets inside the boxes with little digital cameras traveling around inside them. And everything I was seeing on the screen was actually in the room with me.
Oh.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And I've never seen anything that good again. And I forgot to see what artist that was. But
if you're lissining, get at us.
Where are you showing next?
Rad artists listening to us.
But, you know, I was kind of taken there with some of Phil Tippett's stuff in this film again. Just watching a film and going like... Because the scale, you never know what the scale is. You never know where you're at. Like you think you're watching miniatures on a table, and then you see people in suits walking around in there, and you realize, okay, no, wait, some of this is huge, and wait, what's what? And it was just that constant like confusion and disorientation, and great soundtrack, and I don't know. I think your audience might like it a lot more than you guys are predicting.
Again, I hope they do. I just, I just don't know. Like, because again, I notoriously have taste in stuff that a lot of people don't like. So
I'm 41% who is not on the Rotten Tomato good side of it.
Yeah,
that's my audience.
Well, that was Mad God on Shudder right now. It actually got a short theater release as well in a few locations. I don't know how long it'll be there, but it's on Shudder right now. I know they got it for a while. I don't know if it's permanently exclusive, but I'm really hoping they do a Blu-ray release, because I would love to see some behind the scenes.
Garrett, I have news for you.
Special
Internet says that Phil Tippett put things up on his YouTube channel about the making of and behind the scene footage. So
if I just done a little bit of work, then I would have basically been.
We all know only Mark puts in work. So no, I'm just kidding. It's mostly Mark.
Mark, come back.
Please.
Mark's working hard right now to make sure we see every thing he eats.
Yeah.
Mark, you'll have to tell us, like, does food taste better if you put it on Facebook? Is that how that works? Because
I think I have Mark blocked on Facebook or like muted, so I haven't seen any of that. So like, not blocked as in like fuck Mark, but just like I don't think I see his feeds. So
not blocked, just ignored.
Well, I don't know. Like my face, I don't know. Social media, I like mute so much just because I'm like tired of seeing it. It's like I don't want to see anything except for like cool art and upcoming movie trailers. Like everything else, I'm like, I could care less.
I'll answer for Mark. It's very scientifically proven that if you post a photo of your food, it tastes 7 million % better.
Really?
That's just science.
Yeah.
I like
it's
astonishing.
Excited about food. I just like when people get excited about stuff. So if he's stoked about his food, then good for him.
I wish I was as excited about his food as he was.
I'm gonna order a pizza later and basically put it on the GraveTalk podcast and be like, it's finally happening.
Yeah, PB&J sandwich. It's going up there.
Hopefully Phil Tippett will deliver it himself. Anyway, that was
Is
Mad
he delivering
God.
pizzas?
I don't know. God, I hope not. No, he's still working his stuff. That was Mad God on Shudder. Tell us what you guys think. If you liked it, if you thought that we were way off base with our takes on this, if John was blatantly wrong, if Garrett was blatantly wrong, we know Matt is right. That's why we bring him on.
You should have seen his notes. So if he is wrong, he's the most well-documented wrong amongst us.
He's Pepe Sylvia, and we're over here just like I like movies. Let us know what you guys think. If you guys have any ideas for other films you think we might want to check out, if you have any good animated recommendations, hit us up. You can hit us up on all the social medias. We got the Facebooks, we got the Instagrams, we're on the Twitters, we're on the TikToks. We don't have anything on there, but we will eventually.
Yeah, follow us, and we won't spam you with food TikToks.
Exactly. But yeah, no, definitely animated films. If you guys got recommendations, stuff.
I have animated recommendations.
Okay, well, hit us up, bro.
Yeah, but it's got to be through our social media. Now is not the time.
I can't. Not now. Okay.
No. We need the engagement.
So yeah, just feel free to hit us up. Thank you guys for listening. As always, we don't say it enough. We love you guys. We love hearing from you. Hit us up. We're so stoked you guys are liking the podcast still. So keep giving it a listen, give it a like. If you have a chance, 5-star rating that shit. Let's talk about how awesome John and Garrett are. Mark, you can go to hell. What are you going to do? Or to GraveTalk.com is our website. You can also find everything there. And I'm going to shut up now and get to these movie recommendations. Man,
Oh, no, I like John's idea. Yeah, you'll have to check him out on social media, guys.
Oh, shit. Engagement. There it is.
Boom.
All right. See you next week where our movie will be Black Phone. Bye.